I heard that this is the week where the poles shift and that something big is about to fall. And when it does, it will push something else out of the way, all of the way. My name is Solarah, and I'm here to share with you my downloads, any guidance that comes through in the process, as well as maybe go into some cards. I want to take a moment to welcome you here. If you are a supporter and you've been with me from the beginning, or you've joined somewhere along the way, thank you. If you've recently joined and you are an ally, you are also welcome here. Thank you for being here too. Thank you to those of you who have donated, tipped, gone to my Ko-Fi to kind of give me a coffee, or those of you who have put money towards the decrees. I really do appreciate all the ways that you sow into my ability to be here and to show up and do what it is I came here to do also. So let's get into the message. So there's so many messages coming through about this. I didn't even know where to begin because I can't be here too long tonight, but I did want to come on here and begin to share some of these downloads. So this message that this is the week where the poles shift was very, very specific, right? So I've been kind of musing on this idea of the poles shifting on the earth. So someone who I hold very dear, who I love very much, we've been having this conversation over the past couple of weeks, like about the poles shifting. And then like a couple of weeks later, all of a sudden I'm in meditation and I see what can only be described in the way that it was shown to me as the poles literally shifting, but on an individual level. Now, what do I mean by that? We're all electromagnetic beings, right? We have things that we draw in and we have things that we repel based upon the frequency we're holding, based upon what's in our fields, right? So in the false matrix, we were set up, especially those of you who were set up to be energetic containers, whether you were scapegoats, etc., the main vessels through which the energy harvesting operations flowed through in terms of like the theft of energy, the transference of karma, and all of that other stuff that you guys know about very well at this point. You are set up for your electromagnetic system to be inverted. And this was all of us to a certain extent, but some of you were especially traumatized to hold more things. And this is also, because the false matrix is an inversion, this is also a reflection of what it is that you do hold when you are no longer in that inverted state. Meaning, and I've said it before, some of the richest beings, cosmologically speaking, the ones who are actually supposed to be overseeing the proper stewardship of the resources on this planet, are the ones who have been stripped of the opportunity to advance in all ways here the most, on all levels, but especially materially and financially, because it's an inversion. So if it's true here, then oftentimes the complete opposite is the cosmological truth, especially when it comes to who beings are. Okay, so what I was seeing is that some of you have had your energy field purposely put into a state where you were calling in everything and anything that didn't align with what it was you desired, and you were repelling everything that you wanted. And in some ways, this is a result of trauma, because trauma is also a program designed. The trauma loops are designed to keep your electromagnetic system underneath the power of the inversion too. So what I mean by that is when you've been through a lot of trauma, you start to sabotage yourself, not on purpose, oftentimes unconsciously, as a form of protection because you've been so violated and unprotected previously. So what does that look like? That looks like when love begins to enter your reality, or even money begins to enter your reality, you fighting with your worthiness and therefore pushing it away, right? Or settling for things that are beneath you financially or romantically, because you don't realize or think that you deserve or are worthy of more. And some of you who've been through this stuff, especially when it comes to love and money, are some of the beings who are here to reinstate like the true love templates on the earth again, as well as some of the biggest holders of true cosmological wealth that actually translates into material wealth when your energy field's not being fucked with and the collective energy of the matrix system and the grids of the earth is not being fucked with. So to go back to the download, I heard that this is the week that the poles shift, because it feels like something is shifting internally. Very specifically, I want to say the message is internally. On an individual level, something's about to shift so magnanimously for you that it will shift the poles within your electromagnetic field. So it's going to begin internally. This is not something that all of a sudden you're going to like see out of nowhere. To others, it might look like it comes out of nowhere, but for you, you're going to know internally it's because all of a sudden, not only am I aware of who the fuck I am, all of a sudden I just know, and I'm walking and I'm living like that's who I am, because the pole shift has occurred internally. It's occurred internally. And once you decide and you root and you establish and you ground and you start walking and living in that internal shift and truth, it has no choice but to actualize, to be realized materially also. So others are going to look on and they're going to be like, like using all manner of terminology, like something came out of nowhere for you, or you had a glow up or a sudden run of luck and all this other shit. It's like, no, boo-boo. This has been like decades and lifetimes and incarnations of waking up, of trying to remember who I am, and not just remembering who I am, but then like believing it enough to let go of all of the narratives and the baggage that kept me internally battling. It feels like I said, like something big is about to fall. It feels like the bottom is about to fall out of something, or like a ceiling is toppling, a glass ceiling, something that has limited and kept you out of the ability to fully connect. And what I mean when I say fully connect, I mean you knew, you could see, you could connect your mind to the possibility of who you are and what it is you're able to accomplish here, but you couldn't fully anchor that in your heart. And what does that feel like when I say what does that feel like when I say that? Like, what I mean, like I want to help you viscerally get what it is I'm trying to convey here. So when you're certain about something, you don't shrink back in your energy. Because when you shrink back, that causes your energy to constrict. And when you constrict, you repel. Okay? Now, if you're in receiving mode and something is said to you and you accept it, it can cause you to open up and bloom a little bit more so that more can come. Right? So if somebody that you love is like talking to you, and think about it like foreplay. You're getting it on and you're really in tune with this person you love, and you've got the sexual chemistry is really going, and they're saying these things to you. And because they're saying it to you, it means even more, but you're able to receive it because it's coming from a place of love. You get what I'm saying? Like you feel yourself opening more when you trust what is coming forth as being true, whether it's coming forth as being true because you're anchored in that truth, or whether it's coming from it comes forth as being true because you trust the person who's saying it. What am I saying? When there's a level of trust in something that's being conveyed or being said, you open up more and you allow for more of it to come in. But when there's fear or doubt or uncertainty, you close yourself off as a protective mechanism, right? So I'm saying this because many of you were able to connect mentally with the possibility of who you are. But in action and on a heart level, when it came down to it, you still didn't fully believe. And you didn't believe enough for the energy to shift, for the poles to shift in you enough that now when something comes towards you that you want, that you know you deserve, you're no longer pushing it away. So, for example, those of you who have gone through a lot of financial trauma because of fuckery, you know how difficult it is to clear yourself of that coding that is connected to lack, especially when that financial trauma has occurred through the abuse and the energy harvesting and the destiny swapping and all of those things that incurred so much trauma in you. It's hard to get to that place where something is coming towards you and to feel safe about it. And a lot of the time that is because in the past, when you started to feel safe, that's when the bottom would fall out in a bad way. But that was also because you were putting your trust in that thing. And the reason the poles are shifting now is not because you're putting your trust in something coming continually to you and therefore like externally the results of what it is you want. No. Now you're putting your trust solely in yourself and your ability to continually magnetize what it is you need and you desire, because that's who the fuck you are. And you're remembering, and you're not just remembering, but you're knowing, you're walking, you're living, you're certain. And when things are coming towards you that once upon a time caused your energy field to constrict, and you would push that shit away and sabotage yourself even though you didn't want to, all of that is shifting in you internally, and it's been shifting in you because you've been doing the work. Maybe you've been doing your own decree work. Maybe you've been connecting with my decrees and they've been helping you. Maybe you've been doing a fuck ton of shadow work. Maybe you've been working with ritual. We all have our way to do the work, right? The internal work of shifting our reality, because it begins internally, right? You've been doing the work. You've been building up to this, and it feels like I don't mean to be like really like grotesque or what's the word, like I don't mean to gross anyone out, but I mean, I don't know, everyone's threshold is different. To me, it doesn't gross me out because it's just life. But you know, like women, if you've had children, you know, when your water breaks, you also have this thing called the mucus plug that breaks, right? And when it breaks, then things can pretty much, a lot of the time, they start moving pretty quickly when the mucus plug falls, right? It's almost like that. It's like whatever was the final thing that was blocking your ability to make this full-on turnaround, it's falling. It's falling, because that's all I keep on seeing. I see something falling, or I see a ceiling like that, some limitation that you couldn't reach before, it no longer being an issue. So something big is about to fall, and this is the week where the poles shift for you internally. And I really do believe that this full moon in Sagittarius has a lot of bearing on how and why this is playing out for some of you energetically. So the full moon in Sagittarius is the sign of the zodiac wheel that when you break it down into gematria, it's the only sign on the zodiac where it breaks down to 144, the 144 frequency. It's not 144,000 people, it's a 144 frequency as far as I can discern. So Sagittarius breaks down to that. It's a final fire sign on the zodiac wheel, which means it's about the integration of the mind of God, which is Aries, with the heart of God, that is Leo, and being able to embody that and walk that code out on the earth. Sagittarius shows you how to walk again on the earth like the goddess that you are. Okay, that's what Sagittarius does. And it feels like this energy, this pole shift, because we are in Gemini season, the sun is in Gemini, and Gemini is the first sign of the zodiac wheel that begins to introduce us to this idea of polarity and how to utilize it to be motherfucking magicians, because that's who the fuck we are. We're magicians. We're here to create in accordance with our divine code, and we're here to destroy in order that harmony can remain, meaning that things that must die because it's their expiration, the cycle has ended, the loop must be broken. We're here to learn how to destroy, and that's what the false matrix taught us not to do. It taught us to keep on going around in loops, and instead of destroying the energy, breaking the cycle, we destroy ourselves. Okay, because that destructive energy, it got to go somewhere, right? That's just basic physics. It got to go somewhere. So it's going either towards you or towards something that it shouldn't be targeting. But what it's supposed to target are the cycles, are the bringing things to a close, ending things out, moving away from certain things, certain habits, certain situations, experiences, locations, people, knowing when it's time to go, knowing when it's time to put an end to things, to keep for the purpose of keeping all things in harmony. Okay, so Gemini is a sign of the zodiac that begins to introduce us to the power of polarity for shaping our realities here on Earth as the magicians that we are. And Sagittarius, Gemini's sister sign, comes as the 9th sign in the zodiac, so 6 signs after Gemini, to show us now, because we've gone through the other the other signs on the zodiac wheel between Gemini and Sagittarius. We've gotten a lot of medicine and wisdom and learning and evolution through them. And by the time we get to Sagittarius, we're here to walk out that shit like the god and the goddess that you are in your own right. That's what Sagittarius teaches you to do. And on an energetic level, Sagittarius helps you to bring in your light codes and to embody them and to walk them out. And the thing about Sagittarius energy is it is a stickler for you walking to the beat of your own drum. Once you get to Virgo begins to really hone in on the lessons of learning who the fuck you are. And through Libra, Scorpio, you also do the deep work of learning who you are, also in tandem when it comes to being with other people, right? Because when you're in a powerful relationship with another person, it actually just shows you more of who you are, for better or for worse, when that person actually loves you and you love them, right? So through Libra and Scorpio, you learn more about who you are, so that through Sagittarius, you can learn how to walk in the faith and the power of knowing that there's no one else like you on the planet, and you're no longer afraid to embrace that. Because everything in the false matrix and the social systems was trying to make everyone the same. Because, and if you've been with me for a while, you'll know I've talked about this a lot, right? Everything in the false matrix could only survive for as long as you were pretending to be something you're not. It needed everyone pretending to be something they're not, so that you would take on these false ID entities, because you would take on the entities, you would take on personas that they were telling you was right. And you'd know it wasn't right because it didn't feel right eventually. And when you sell yourself out like that, you actually open yourself up spiritually to corresponding energies and entities. That's what they needed to be done to you in the false matrix. They needed you constantly open to these energies and entities to latch on to you, so that you would be perpetually harvested without even knowing that's what was going on. Because here's the truth: you cannot be harvested and siphoned when you are walking in the fullness of the power that you are, in your source coded truth. You only open yourself to that kind of energy harvesting, mimicry, siphoning, destiny swapping, all of that. You only open yourself up to that as you move away from who you actually are in your source encoded truth. You open yourself up and you begin to get rid of the protections that you gain from being fully connected to source. Because the only way that you can be fully, you can know who you are and walk in your source encoded truth is if you are fully connected to source. Which is why everything in the false matrix was about disconnecting you. Disconnecting you from source so that you would become vulnerable and open to attack. Okay, so it's a really difficult thing, therefore, to walk in accordance with the truth of who you are in a world that was designed to covertly punish you for doing so. And so this is why it's so hard to get back to that place of walking in your truth, and why Sagittarius is so big on not only giving you the medicine to walk in the faith that is required to take that chance on yourself, but Sagittarius is also wonderful for returning shit to everything to where it belongs. Sagittarius, like I know, like in traditional astrology, they talk about Sagittarius being connected to travel and borders and yada, yada, yada. It's true, I guess. For me, I don't deal so much with the material representation because that's the last thing of importance, even though it's of more importance to our day-to-day life. The truth of the matter is Sagittarius deals with border patrol on all planes. The material one too, but the material being the least important one, because it's what happens on the material planes is established in all the other ones, right? So Sagittarius establishes border patrol in all the other planes. Now, what does that mean? Remember I said to you before that you can only be infiltrated by these energies and these entities that they needed to have you open to in the false matrix. You could only be open to them for as long as you weren't walking in your truth, and your borders therefore were opened. Because when you're not walking in your truth, you're opening yourself up to things to come in. Right? Sagittarius tells you it's time for you to walk in the fullness and the power and the truth of who you are, to take a chance and take the leap of faith in yourself, because in doing so, that's how you shut out all of the other things that seek to attach to you, to use you, to have life for their ideas and their ideals, and to play God over you as if your vessel, your sacred vessel, is there to be their playground. Sagittarius is like, no. Rise into the power of your truth, walk it out, peacock your way around in the power of your own divine garb, and allow everything else that has been trying to play being you, whether through you, or in some cases, if you're dealing with destiny swapping, soul mimicry, spells and all that other shit, other people walking around pretending to be you, cloaking themselves in your energy. When you walk in the truth of who you are, you take a chance on yourself, and you break away from all of the illusions of the false matrix that try to tell you that you can't, and put up all of these forms of punishment to try to keep you from doing so. As you break past all of that, because you have such profound faith in your right to be who you are, in your power, in your value, as you continue to do that, you start to send all these fuckers back to where they belong, and you start to take back everything that is yours. And it begins in how you think. You can't walk it out if you don't first think it and then know it, because you can think it, but then it has to become established in your heart. But Gemini is the sign of the zodiac that begins to help you to see the fullness of the picture. So then you can begin to make a decision based upon the state of your own heart, etc. But Gemini opens the door wide open for you to even begin to see the options you have. And then you work through Cancer, Leo, Virgo to do the heart work, to align your emotional body so that what you're projecting out into the world and calling in matches now the truth of who you say you are, or who you believe yourself to be. I hope that makes sense. So by the time you get to Sagittarius, in other words, you've done been through all of those other signs. You've alchemized your emotional fields and your mental fields. And Sagittarius is now like, as you walk this out and you embody it, this is how everything goes back to its rightful place as far as your timelines, your individual timelines are concerned. But here's the thing, your individual timelines also have a bearing on the collective shifts too. Okay, so I hope I'm making sense here. So something big is about to fall because you are shifting the poles back into proper divine alignment for yourself internally. And as you do that, you're assisting the polar shift that's happening on the earth. I have more downloads, but I'm not going to get into them right now because the message about this polar shift, it goes really deep. I'm going to have to do a few messages on it because it touches on divine partnerships, divine counterparts, and then it touches on a lot of the details of the mechanisms, and how that connects to like the Sirius star heliacal rising that's coming forth in Cancer season, and the 8/8 portal, and the pyramids of Giza. Like there's so much stuff that's coming forth, and so I don't have too much time to dive into that tonight, and I want to go into it, like really go into it. That might be like a 2-hour reading, or I might have to do it in a part 1 and a part 2. And some of it I don't even know if I'm going to do here on YouTube, to be completely frank, but we'll see what my guidance is on sharing some of that stuff. But either way, it's a lot. It's a lot that's coming forth right now. So let's get into some cards. Let's get into some cards. Let's go into my other fuckery deck. This is the one I've been using in the blackout videos. The other little yellow one I've done for the past 2 readings was one of the first ever decks I created for this channel. And then this one came after this other one I'm about to use tonight. So let's see what's coming forth. Blood rituals. Blood rituals is coming out. Freezer spells and delay magic. I love it. This is like so apropos. You are ready to take this leap and are being helped in clearing the internal densities that fed old karmic narratives that kept you in fear. So those places where you're still battling fear, doubt, uncertainty, you have a lot of help right now to assist you in this polar shift that's wanting to occur for you now. And no amount of like whatever anything or anybody else is trying to throw your way is going to have an effect. Not the blood rituals, not the freezer spells, not the delay magic. In fact, if anything, you're taking that stuff and you're using it for your own benefit. You're taking that energy and you're turning it around to dispel the fear. Okay, so you might be doing freezer work also. I just got off a consultation and I was sharing this with someone. I love doing freezer work. I love doing freezer work for freezing energies in their path. And I'm not talking about people, I said freezing energies. So for those of you, especially with Gemini season being what it is, and I've talked about this before, Gemini season is big for psychic attack energy because it's also big for completely rewriting your mental code, because that's the point of this sign. Its medicine is to help you completely rewrite your mental code. Okay, so as such, the minute that you open your mental energy like that, it becomes more susceptible to other inflow of other energies, other mental energies. So this is why through transits in Gemini, other people's thoughts about you become easier to penetrate your mental fields. But that's not a problem when you know who you are. Because when someone else's thought begins to penetrate your fields, you know it's an illusion. And sometimes, a lot of the time now, your own energy is going to bounce that back to them. And you know you're bouncing it back to them when it doesn't bother you anymore. When it doesn't bother you anymore, that's how you know the energy's automatically being returned. You're not moved by that shit anymore because it's not a part of your truth. You don't believe what it is that they're trying to project onto you for it to even for you to hold it in your energy field and make something of it. You just give it back. You know, some of this stuff at this point, like I was sharing in one of the sunrise salutations or moonrise musings last week, some of this stuff that used to like trigger me from people, like it's laughable. It's laughable at this point. And some of it still baffles me. Like I'll sit down and I'll be like, I don't get it. I don't get why people are like this. Or I'll still have those kinds of conversations, but at the crux of my core and my being, I know it's their problem and not mine anymore. You know what I mean? So, to go back to the freezer spells. The freezer spells are wonderful though if you're still battling really harshly with those energies, like things that keep on coming your way. Now the freezer spells work when you know how to identify the illusion. You know how to identify either the illusion or you can identify the patterning. Because when you can do that, you can write out what it is that you're freezing. I now freeze everything and anything that is at work to make me think this about myself. I don't accept that thought. I do not consent to it being in my mental body, emotional body, in my energy fields. I freeze it out. And you go and you put it in, your water in the freezer and you freeze it. And you feel it. You feel the quieting down instantly. I've done freezer stuff before and felt when the spell melted, because there were like a few years ago, there was an issue with my freezer. And so they melted and I felt the energy come back. I felt when spells have come undone because of some natural thing that's occurred in reality. I feel it, so these things I say it because it's real. Like you can literally feel once you do that, the chatter of what it was that was bothering you that you've chosen to freeze. You can feel it die down. And the importance of that is not for bypassing. The importance of that is so that you can do the real work without the distraction of the chatter. Because a lot of the time, the chatter is not helping you do anything but to be distracted and to pull you into a lower frequency, when really you need to isolate it so you can really focus on the issue at hand, right? Okay, so freezer spells, delay magic, blood rituals. We got at the bottom glamour, dreams, lunar magic, surprise, surprise. Full moon, lunar magic. So we're dealing with the waxing moon, right? The moon, it's probably moved out of Scorpio by now. It's just entered into Sagittarius in preparation for the full moon in Sagittarius, which will be occurring at 20 degrees. So we've had the moon re-entering Scorpio for the first time since the full moon last month. I don't know for those of you, if you've seen the moon over the past couple of nights. I was writing about it over on Solarah.xyz, but the moon has been pink. She's been beautiful. Every time I viewed her, she's been pink. So gorgeous. And every time I saw her like that, she was in Scorpio, funnily enough. So I say all of that because whatever the full moon was dealing with when it came to you last month, that energy is crescendoing right now, for better or for worse. Take it as it resonates. So lunar magic, that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with beings trying to amp things up. amp things up, amp things up, amp things up, make you more emotional, make you more afraid, whatever, emotion it is. And maybe blood rituals can also speak of family, ancestral fuckery, ancestral entities, all of that, the family grids, where you were literally energetically employed to be the scapegoat, which means you were there to feed, you were there to hold, rather, all of the lower frequencies that the lower vibrational energies, emotionally speaking, that they didn't want to hold or to take accountability for, to drag you into a really low frequency so that your grand energy could be used against you and you could be traumatized and feed all of these entities that like to live off of people's fear, their guilt, their shame. They need those lower emotional vibrations. That's their food source. And for some of you, I've said this before, some of you are very big holders and containers of energy because of who you are. But when your energy is misdirected through programming, the false matrix, and not knowing who you are, your big energy, instead of being used to be an anchor for love and wealth and joy and peace and everything you actually were created to hold, it becomes a big transmitter of trauma, because of what it is you're going through and the power and the strength of how you send that out. Not on purpose, but just because that's how you're energetically designed. Art and antiques, I see again. It's too many cards. Too many cards. Cut the heartstrings. This energy is still influencing you due to past emotional manipulation. So this is going right under lunar magic. Be aware of sentimentality that arises at this time. Be aware of people who want to become familiar with you all of a sudden who haven't been before, or who are trying to rekindle some level of familiarity that no longer exist. Be aware of how this also shows up in your dream. There's a lot happening in the dream space right now. Like I was writing on Solarah.xyz this weekend. It was a grand weekend of purging. A lot of purging occurring in the mental and the emotional fields in preparation for this full moon in Sagittarius. But also, I feel like that's what the first 6/6 portal of the season kind of instigated, and it instigated it because it's inviting us to rise higher into our divine contracts. And in order to do that, whenever there's an invitation to go higher, whatever it is that has kept you from being there at that place before, you meet it in order for it to depart from you. Okay? So even as I was saying that, I'm seeing again this ceiling crashing. Like for some of you, like if I'm seeing like you've reached the end of a loop, like a really big loop. You've reached the end of a loop and you're pushing the door open. Like what they're showing me is like you can go around a loop and not even realize you're on a loop. You don't even realize, because everything just looks like you're moving on a trajectory of moving forward, but really you're just moving in like almost like, one of those they're like those see-through balls that people get into to play those games where they're running in the ball, right? It's almost, or being like on the fucking hamster wheel. It's like that, but because your hamster wheel was like maybe in a car, so it looked like from one place to another you were actually moving somewhere, but you were still in the hamster wheel. The only reason you looked like you were moving somewhere was because you were in the car, but you were still in the fucking hamster wheel. You weren't going anywhere, right? So the change in scenery wasn't because you were going somewhere. It's because you were in the car. And so there's something here about recognizing where the door is. You're recognizing right now where there's a door. There's a doorway out. And the doorway out, it's an internal one. It's an internal one. It's an internal one. And for some of you, you've blown that trap door all the way open. You've blown that trap door all the way open. And again, It's an internal door. It's an internal chamber for some of you. Okay, 8th house, that Scorpio energy. Let's go into the tarot. I'm going to wrap this up. And going into my Crystal Magic Tarot deck. I'm going to do a 4-card spread as I always do. Bottom of the deck, look at this. 8 of Swords. This actually came out in a different tarot deck I was using this morning when I was writing Daily Alchemy for today. We got the 8 of Swords came out, and the 8 of Cups was at the bottom of the deck, so we had 8-8 energy. So there's a lot of stuff coming up about 8-8 codes right now. But like I said, that's something I will get into in other readings. 8 of Swords is Gemini energy. It is 0 to 10 degrees of Gemini energy. It's also connected to Leo. It's connected to the Strength card in the tarot. So it's Leo and Gemini energy. It's about breaking out of mental containers, breaking out of mental prisons. Breaking out of mental prisons that are actually, they are illusory in nature because they're in the mind, which means you always have the power to think yourself out of it, even if that's not what you were told. So the prison that you're breaking out of, the ceiling that for many of you, remember I said the pole shift is internal, the ceiling that is collapsing, the thing that is falling apart completely is something that has contained you in a way of thinking, in a loop of mental programming that has kept you reproducing timelines that are beneath the truth of who you are. That have kept you producing timelines that actually benefited those who were doing soul mimicry work, destiny swapping work, energy harvesting, siphoning, all of that stuff. You had to continue to think this way about yourself, right? You had to continue to think this way about yourself. And many of you know, especially those of you who've dealt with very intense situations of destiny swapping and soul mimicry, you'll know that the beings who were responsible for doing that against you played a very big part in keeping you mentally in a cage. That's part of their job too. This is why so many of them show up in your life as handlers also, because they're there to control your narrative. Because for as long as they're controlling your narrative, you're not controlling your narrative, and you're buying into the story they need you to buy into in order to continue to take from you, in order to continue to wrongfully be in your energy, controlling you in some way, playing God over you, playing God. And what does Sagittarius come to help you do? To be the god or the goddess that you are. But you can't be a god or a goddess in your own reality if you're allowing someone else to play God over you. And it really is playtime, because they don't even have the credentials a lot of the time to play God over self, because if they did, that's what the fuck they would do. That's what the fuck they would do. Anyway. Overarching theme, 5 of Wands, speaking of Leo. This is again, this is 0 to 10 degrees Leo energy. So with the 0 to 10 degrees, that is those are cardinal degrees as far as I'm concerned. So this is something that's beginning now. It's picking up now. It's picking up now. Something is taking off. Okay? And with this 5 of Wands and the 8 of Swords, again, this is like the programming and the mental box that you've been in, because it served the purpose of other beings who had certain issues with you. Because the 5 of Wands is a card that speaks of, it's a card of envy. It's a card where beings are being combative with you because really they're envious of your shine. They don't like how much you shine a lot of the time. Is the issue. They don't like how aligned you are with your heart. They don't like sometimes how innocent you are or how childlike you are. That's another thing, right? Something is clearing very magnanimously so that you will be seen for who you are, and there will no longer be obscurity or distortion. And again, I want to be very, very clear. This light is really bright. I want to be very, very clear about why that is. There's no distortion or obscurity in how you're perceived, because there's no more distortion and obscurity internally. It's always been about how you think and feel about yourself internally. That then becomes how you are not only perceived and received, but how you are creating timelines with other beings. Right? And one of the biggest battles with the Five of Wands. Five of Wands is about battles. One of the biggest battles in the false matrix, when you're breaking out of the false matrix and you are waking up to who you are, is holding the truth of that until you become it. Because when you begin to wake up, that's when it's like you detonate everything that wants to come back and put you back into that box of forgetting who you are again. And the only way that you're able to rise into this place where the poles shift internally, because you're so determined to anchor in the truth of who you are and to live it unashamedly. The only reason that is because at some point you make the choice that you're going to hold on and trust in self more than anything else. And then you got to fight. You got to fight for that position until it naturally becomes your own again. And this is what I'm feeling like. You've been fighting for this, and it's about to become yours. And as it becomes yours, it's going to, what were the words? It's going to make something crash. It's going to cause a crash. And in doing it, so the crash is going to push something else that has appeared all this time to be this obstacle or this boulder or this wall that you couldn't get past. It's going to cause it to be pushed out of the way, all of the way. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about this shift in your internal reality is about to make things that looked to be impossible to you to all of a sudden just flood your reality as if it was always supposed to be there, because the truth is it was. And all you've done is you've recalibrated yourself internally for it to come home to where it belongs. Challenge position, the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is Libran energy. It's 10 to 19 degrees of Libra. So this is letting go of, there was a card that came out about heartstrings, right? The Three of Swords is about all the ways like you're being controlled mentally because of heartbreak, or you're being controlled by beings who are trying to have to play God over you by messing with you emotionally. That's that three energy. It's to have you birth timelines of pain because of how you think about yourself based upon fucked up dynamics, oftentimes. Dynamics of betrayal, guilt, gaslighting, all of these things that come together to create these really gnarly relational scenarios that really can break your heart and do such damage to how you view yourself. Right? So there's something that is breaking here for you, some kind of clarity that's coming through here, because the 3 and the 8 of Swords, that breaks down to 11, which is a gate, and 10 plus 1, that's the 10 of Swords and the Ace of Swords, or the 10 of Swords and the Page of Swords. But either way, it's an ending that brings forth clarity. It's a gateway with the number 11 that's opening, and it's opening because justice, balance, harmony is being restored. Heart and brain are coming into coherence now. Mind is matching heart, and heart is matching mind. And in that, there is a powerful resonance that's occurring in your fields that is allowing for what has always been yours to find you again. Yeah. What it is you need to be paying attention to. 9 of Coins, your fucking value. How fucking valuable and worthy and beautiful and wealthy you are. You need to be focusing on your treasure. And the treasure is and has always been you. Right? So that's the 9 of Pentacles. It's Virgo energy. It's the second decan of Virgo. It's 10 to 19 degrees of Virgo, right? But Virgo is already 9 energy, right? And we are dealing with a number 9 year, which are Virgo energies in the tarot and Sagittarius energies, astrologically speaking. So 9 is a number that denotes an end, and it denotes deliberation. It denotes a severing. Okay, so there's a severing that's occurring here as you connect with the fullness of your own beauty, your value, your worth. You make that the focus. You magnify that. As you do that internally, it's breaking the hold of a lot of the fuck shit stories that constantly had you like fighting yourself and being stuck in these mental cages and these storylines about you that didn't align with the truth of who you are. It may have aligned with the timelines that had been created as a result, but never aligned with the truth of who you are in your mental and emotional power when it's married and in union and cohesive, and you have the power of the coherence that comes from mind and heart together. No more fighting internally. You know, there's some kind of internal fight that you're letting go of. Guidance, the 4 of Cups. This is Cancerian energy, and right off the bat they're telling me this is also a date that's going to be important. And so with the 4 of Cups, this is the third decan of Cancer, which is 20 to 29 degrees of Cancer. So that's going to be around the time of the full moon in Capricorn on the 10th of Cancer to the end of Cancer season, which is normally around the 20th, 21st, 22nd of July. So like, let's say from like maybe, you know, the 10th or the 11th of July through the 21st or the 22nd, those dates might be of significance to you in general or what's ahead, you know, take it as it resonates. But that Cancerian energy is a big one. I do have it noted, and I do have it in my notes for what it is I'm going to talk about a little bit more when it comes to these polar shifts, because that heliacal rising of Sirius that occurs every year when the sun is in Cancer, there's a significance with what is happening now, what we're being prepared for, and very specifically the full moon in Capricorn and the grids that supported very specifically the family dynamics that were the core and the foundation for all of the social and global energy harvesting dynamics that we were plugged into through the false matrix. We first got plugged into it. The first place we got plugged into it was the family grid. And so we've been working from outside in. There's something very magnanimous that's occurring with the institution of family and the false grids that supported the dysfunctional methods of what we were taught family is through the false matrix for the purpose of harvesting and for the purpose of putting us in certain roles to promote that harvesting. So 2022 with the full moon in Cancer, it was the end of many of those contracts we were binded to, and we've been waking up, we've been doing the work, we've been removing ourselves, and now the grids are being trashed is really what I keep on hearing. It's a trashing of the grids. It's like a fucking big ass celestial cosmic bonfire night. You know, like, I don't even know why I want to do the bankhead bounce to that shit, but I do, you know. Anyway, let me stop. The Four of Cups, the Four of Cups and guidance. This is like, in terms of guidance, this is about being solid in your emotions, being solid in who you are, being solid in how you feel, right? The four is a number of being solid and creating a new foundation. And because you're dealing with cups, it's about creating a new emotional foundation. Many of you are writing new emotional stories, and you have been this whole time. This whole time you've been choosing to heal. You've been writing a whole new emotional story. But because you still had a lot of clearing to do, you were still regurgitating timelines, pieces of timelines, and then being pulled into fucked up timelines because you still, you know, you still had the residue of what you'd been through kind of dominating you, so that you didn't really know. There's like a rewriting of your emotional story that's happening here. What it means to love, what it means to be loved, what it means to show up in a world that loves you, because there's a polar shift that's occurred internally where you've come back to love yourself. And it's about to begin to play out in really beautiful ways. So that's what I have for you. I'm going to get going now. I hope that this reading and these downloads were insightful, helpful, confirming, affirming. For all information on how to work with me, I'll put that in the description box and the information section below. I do have a new decree. I have a new decree for breaking the glamour spells and overlays that are often a result of these energy harvesting rituals, dynamics, evil eye, all that shit, as well as calling back your beauty, your power, your wealth, and sealing your fields off from further intrusions. So I just released that decree yesterday, Sunday, June the 8th. I did let everyone know on the community board. It is in my Ko-Fi shop. I will put that in the description box and comment section below, along with all of my other decrees I've been releasing over the past few months or so. But there are also more in the Ko-Fi shop. My decrees as of now are still free. They're free and for also by inspired donation. So again, I'm going to remind you, I do that because I like to share my liberation codes, but I do put a lot of work into what I do. This is like work from lifetime. This is lifetimes of work, you know, and it's my pleasure to do so because I want to see you free. But if you are able to give back, it helps a lot. It helps a lot because we're all in this working to be liberated in various ways. And it helps me to be able to continue to do the work of liberation for the collective and for myself also. So I thank those of you who are able to give and who do. Thank you for your generosity. I hope it returns to you in beautiful, auspicious ways. What else? If you'd like to connect with me on a daily basis, you can do so over on my platform, Solarah.xyz. This is where you can stay connected with me every day through the free message I provide called Daily Alchemy, which you might see every now and again on the community board here. You can join me over on Solarah.xyz to get that every single day, see it on the site, or get it directly mailed to you in your inbox, as well as if you are wanting to have more access to other messages, you can join me there too. I have paying membership tiers also. Okay, so what else? I think that's it. I'm sending you guys all so much love. Well, I'm sending all of you love who are able to open yourself up to receive it, because you're in frequential alignment to receive that love. You know, this full moon in Sagittarius got me really careful with how I give my energy out there in terms of how I use my words nowadays, because otherwise I used to be just like anyway. Okay, I'll see you guys again soon. Until then, be well.